Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is August 4th. It's Tuesday, and we are doing a special live show today. We are going to get a little bit of space weather news, but we are mainly on air tracking the tropical storm Isaias. It is now traveling up the East Coast. But let's talk about some space weather really quick. Right now, our solar wind speeds are at 660 kilometers per second with a density of 8.0. Our KP indices are sitting at a 2 with a 24-hour max at 4. So we've had some solar wind now for the past 24 hours. This is the strongest amount of solar wind that we have seen in quite some time for this long. Now, it is an indication that we are pulling out of that low part of the solar minimum. It's still a solar minimum. Don't get it, twisted here. With sunspot numbers 23 with 2 sunspots, that's not really, that's not what I would call particularly a strong showing of sunspots as far as what it would look like in a maximum type situation. But anyway, nonetheless, we have two, AR-2770 and AR-2769. 68 has deteriorated. That would have been Earth-facing a little bit further past, and then 67 decayed away as well into the western limb. But without a doubt, we are starting to see some action, though, from solar cycle 25. That TCI reading is only at 2.55, which I don't expect it to stay there very long. And here, just reading real quick from SPACEWEATHER.com, active regions from solar cycle 25 are now strewn across the sun's northern hemisphere. These are places where magnetic fields are intensifying, creating islands of magnetism on the sun's surface. It says here also, the appearance of so many active regions at once is a clear sign that solar cycle 25 is gaining steam. However, that does not mean solar minimum is finished. These are just starter sunspots, pipsqueaks compared to the behemoths expected when solar 25 reaches its peak in a few years. So what I was going to say before reading that part would be that sunspot numbers 23 is not that big of a deal. When you have 2 active regions, 2 separate sunspots being named, and you're only talking about a grouping of 23, that's pretty small. When you get into the maximum, you'll see one grouping that will be 30 to 40, not just 11, 23 like they are here in the minimum. So these are 2 small sunspots. Yes, we are going to see some action from our star moving forward because of solar cycle 25 getting in place, but it doesn't mean it's going to be blast off time here for the sun. It's going to take a few years to see those behemoths, as SpaceWeather.com had mentioned. So with that being said, let's get to the heart of the true headline today, which is going to be this tropical storm Isaias, which is coming up the northeast right now. And we have already seen rainfall amounts near Philadelphia at 4 inches. 4.21 inches of rain has already fallen in parts of Pennsylvania. Now this storm here, you guys can see it on the radar, moving at 35 miles an hour northeast. 35 miles an hour. Here is what we know so far. It battered the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, which that was where the landfall happened, which kind of was obvious. The GFS, I gotta admit, when I was showing this 5 days ago, I mentioned in the broadcast, it looks like we're going to see a landfall right on the borderline of North Carolina and South Carolina, and the GFS hit it right on the nail. So kudos, because GFS gets a lot of flack about predicting storms, and 5 days ago they got it right. But anyway, here's what we're expecting. It's 12:24 right now here on the East Coast. We've got some gusty winds coming to Atlantic City right now. They should be experiencing gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour. And then as we get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 30 to 35 miles per hour. And by the end of the evening, moderate winds. Boston is expected to see their peak of gusty winds around Tuesday, 7 p.m. That's later today. New York City right now also seeing the gusts of winds. Philadelphia also experiencing that right now. Winds will die down by 7 p.m. in New York City, Philadelphia, and winds are already dying down in the D.C. area. As I said earlier, we had seen totals of rain already at 4 to 6 inches before it got to the mid-Atlantic states. Right now, they're thinking central and northern mid-Atlantic additional 2 to 4 inches. Isolated maximum storm totals of 8 inches. Eastern New York into Vermont, 2 to 4 inches of isolated maximum total of 6 inches as well. Western Connecticut, Western Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, and Western Maine is expecting 1 to 3. So let's get out the handy dandy. Well, I don't know if I have my arrow on this. That's all right. I don't need it, I guess. No, I don't. So let's take a look here, guys. The flooding. What we're looking at right now, flood watches all across Philadelphia, New York City, Albany, New York, Burlington, Vermont, Concord, New Hampshire. Boston is out of that right now. It doesn't look like anything in the Boston, Rhode Island area. You guys are probably just going to see some waves and some wind, but not the rain that we're getting here right now, as the Northeast is going to get pummeled today. Checking out some other stats here so far, and power outages. We had a live camera here. I'm going to have to see if I could find it real quick. Looks like it pooped out on me. The power outages don't seem to be too crazy right now. And I'm losing everything's updating. And here's another thing too, guys. I was trying to pick up an SDO image earlier so I could have a live look at our star, and I could not get the software to load that up. So I'm imagining, bear with us here, we're having a little bit of internet issues. Let's take a look at our power outages so far. Right now, New Jersey with 405,000 power outages. They lead the way. And I do apologize for the video up here that has unfortunately went out. Once again, the live look here in Jersey. And you could probably figure out why, though. 405,000 without power in New Jersey. Virginia, 291,286 without power. In North Carolina, where they got hit pretty hard, 225,000 without power. 437,000, or I'm sorry, yeah, 437. Pennsylvania right now with 118,438. Maryland with 112,000 so far. And it's only getting started here in the Northeast as well. And what does that mean? So we've seen rain since this early morning, after midnight, I should say. We have seen nonstop, relentless rain. And this storm, here's the thing that is pretty impressive about it the most, and that is how fast this thing is going. 35 miles an hour, fast. That's a pretty quick moving storm. So the good news about this is that if this was a slow moving storm, we would be talking about a foot of rain in some parts. 35 miles an hour, and it's still dumping 4 to 6 inches of rain in certain parts of the Northeast. That's a lot of rain for a storm moving as fast as that. So I thought it was very interesting to bring that up as well. Let's take a look now at some of our Noaa forecast here. Tropical force winds, not really tropical force, but there's the idea of the cone right there. This really, this event here for us where we live, Mari and I, are actually right in the red of this. So we will be able to probably get some footage for you guys. There's going to be some flooding, no doubt. Let's take a look at some of our watch boxes here. Zoom right in, of course, all along the coasts. Warnings and watches in place up and down I-80. Tropical storm warnings up and down the coast, I should say. And then we've got flash flood watches inland. On top of that, with a wind advisory starting at 2 p.m. here in the Northeast. That's when the winds will start picking up here upstate New York. Now, this area was in a bit of a drought. So this rain is needed. There is the current track of this storm. And like I said, right where that S is, guys, that is bullseye, pretty close to where we are. So we are going to see some pretty intense situations here today. I'd say conditions probably get worse around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock up here. We might come back on with some live footage of that as well. Get some more stats up here for you guys real quick. Tornado watches, these should expire. I'm going to go ahead and update this. Let's see what we get when I refresh. And I'll tell you why these tornado watches will expire soon. Like I said, this storm is moving 35 miles an hour northeast. Checking also right now location. And I haven't had a lot of alerts yet for any tornadoes, but they're watching this because of wind shear and how high it is right now. It's super, super high. And the area that we need to watch is where the tail is. You guys can see on the map, right off the coast, where the watch box in red meets in the joint, you'll see like a tail of moisture that goes out into the Atlantic Ocean with reds and greens in it. That is an indication of where they are worried about seeing these tornadoes spun up. And in other words, it's going to be that line of storms that we're going to see that's going to concern. But the thing is, that's the only line. Once that line moves through, like it is right now, we're talking about this storm going 35 miles an hour. Now, on the Weather Channel, they got a Torcon right there by Worcester, I should say, right about a Torcon of 3. So Hartford, Connecticut, 2 of a Torcon. And of course, right here in the area that's in the box, they were talking about a 3, maybe a 4. That's pretty high for the Northeast. And the higher the number, the more confident they are in the actual occurrence. But right now, we have a flash flood watch that continues for portions of the northwestern Connecticut, western Massachusetts, New York, southern Vermont, including following areas in northwestern Connecticut, northern Litchfield, southern Litchfield, and western Massachusetts, northern Berkshire, and the southern Berkshire, in New York, eastern Albany, eastern Columbia, eastern Dutchess, eastern Greene, eastern Rensselaer, eastern Schenectady, eastern Ulster, Hamilton, Montgomery, northern Fulton, northern Saratoga, northern Warren, northern Washington, Scolari, southeast Warren, which is where Mari and I are in the general vicinity of, southern Fulton, southern Saratoga, southern Washington, western Albany, western Columbia, western Dutchess, western Greene, western and western Ulster, western Schenectady, I'm sorry, and southern Vermont, Bennington, eastern Windham, and western Windham. These are very precise locations. The first ones I read were from New York. Through Wednesday morning, heavy rainfall from bands of showers, embedded thunderstorms ahead of associated with tropical storm Isaias will affect the region today and tonight. A total of 2 to 4 inches of rainfall is expected, with isolated amounts of up to 6 inches west of Hudson River Valley as well. Hourly rainfall rates may exceed an inch an hour this afternoon into this evening. The heavy rainfall rates have the potential to cause flash flooding in urban, poor drainage, and low-lying areas. Smaller streams and creeks may also flood their banks due to the heavy rainfall rates. Flash flood means that conditions may develop that lead to flash flooding. Flash flooding is a very dangerous situation. It could be potentially life-threatening. You should monitor later forecast and be prepared to take action should flash flood warnings be issued. So we are dealing with a massive rain assault here, basically in the northeast parts of Pennsylvania. Right now you see where the heaviest is in southern New York near Poughkeepsie and just south of Albany, and that red and yellow is now starting to reach up the I-87 headed into Vermont and other parts of the northeast. Calm and quiet right now, but North Country also starting to see the effects of this rain, just some light rain, moderate showers. But the tornado watch here in the red box, let's refresh as it actually is doing it by itself. So it looks like it shrunk just a little bit, not a lot. But this watch is valid until about 4 p.m. Now, tornado watch is just that conditions are favorable for a possibility of a tornado. But right now, we have not had any reports of such situations yet. The damage so far that's left behind from this particular storm is not on the devastation side. There was some minor beach erosion going on in North Carolina, South Carolina. They talked about that. Also in Jersey on the Atlantic shore, I saw a meteorologist basically compare or try to give us a comparison between a nor'easter that cuts up the coast and this particular storm. And from what I gathered from him, this was not that bad as far as beach erosion and other damage that may come in surge flooding. The water is already receded in most parts in North Carolina, so that's the good news. And again, this storm moved at a pretty fast rate. A lot of damage in Oak Island, Florida. A lot of footage of that floating around right now as well. We'll have a lot to cover on this storm tomorrow as well. We'll kind of recap what happened from state to state here. North Carolina, South Carolina saw a lot of water and a lot of flooding. I've heard a lot on social media about Oak Island as well. North Carolina, not Florida, sorry. So this storm is fast moving, 35 miles an hour, but we are going to see the effects of this for quite some time. And the concern in the Northeast is flooding. And if you live in and around the Adirondacks, you know there's a lot of trees out here. There's a lot of big trees out here as well. So the biggest concern is going to be the gusts when they arrive around 2 p.m. today, the high winds, and the saturation of rains we've had since early morning, this morning actually, since 1 a.m. That's going to be the big concern, is that we're going to have to deal with power outages, not from the wind gust. I mean, we had a pretty bad storm. We had a tornado roll through here about a month ago, and we had some pretty good gusty winds, and the trees around here, they held up pretty well. I didn't see anything crazy damage. There was a lot of trees down on I-87, but nothing too devastating in this area. So this is about to be one of the most trying times for this particular area as far as going through the rain and the wind. Now, I'll give you some rain totals right now. In Stafford, Virginia, since Monday, 6.66 inches. It's too bad they couldn't get a little bit more there. That's not a good, lucky number. Richmond, Virginia, 5.13 inches. Again, this is a quick moving storm, guys. A couple hours. People here are getting their month's worth of rain and more in just an hour. Petersburg, Virginia at 4.28. West Point at 3.39 inches of rain. And Newport News, Virginia at 3.09 inches of rain. So as you guys can see, this storm has had a consistency of throwing around 4 to 6 inches of rain up and down the East Coast. It looks as if it's going to continue to do that as it heads in towards inland here in the Northeast. But this thing will begin to weaken the further inland it goes. So the further north, for folks that live in the Northeast, like New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, this thing will be a lot weaker. But we'll see some impressive rain still coming from this tropical storm that's just going to be a depression here in the very near future. But for now, make sure you guys, if you live in the Northeast, are paying attention to your local forecasts, as things change pretty quickly, especially with a storm that's moving as fast as this particular storm is moving. And I'm not trying to hype it and make it bigger than what it is, but 35 miles an hour. Again, we are lucky on that part. We are lucky because if this thing had stalled out with the amount of rain it's dropping in a short period of time, this would have been, wow. We're talking a foot of rain in some spots, honestly, guys. Maybe a foot and a half. I mean, think about it. If it's dropping 6 inches, almost 7 inches of rain in just an hour to 3 hours, imagine if this thing stuck around for another 4 or 5 hours. And now there is a new tornado watch as we are speaking. It is for, unfortunately, the area that we are in right now. Tornado watch for southeastern Warren County, now in effect. That is new. Let me get the watch box up here for that. Again, we are just now getting information on a new tornado warning in the area here. Let's check out and see what we can see here. Don't have it yet updated. I will back out. And the reason why this tornado watch is going up is because of this fast moving tail here that I was just showing you guys that was in New Jersey. And I'm getting the tornado watch pulled up right now. We've got Connecticut, looking for New York. Here we go, New York. It has not been updated yet. But one of the tornado watches that was up earlier till 4. All right, just hang tight here, folks. I'm sure I'll be able to pull this up really quick. Actually, there's the advisories here. There we are. So it says here, Warren County, a tornado watch in effect till 9 p.m. Also, Albany, Columbia, Dutchess, Greene, Rensselaer, Saratoga, Schenectady, Ulster, Warren, and Washington counties are included in the tornado watch. See if I can get any more information. Nope, that's pretty much it. It just happened. So we are looking at what we weren't looking at was a tornado watch earlier. So a little bit surprising that this is moving a little bit further inland, further west. And looking at this earlier, I was telling Mari, I'm pretty sure that we are going to be, I mean, almost dead in the middle of this. I'm going to go ahead and update the power outage map real quick, so bear with me, folks. Those totals are going up, too. You guys can see that right now. Customers, only 8,000 customers in New York are without power. That's just the very beginning. New Jersey is up just in the last 5 minutes, folks. Over 130,000 power outages since we first reported this. So they are definitely feeling the effects of this. They're climbing to 1 million. We'll continue to watch that. There's probably going to be parts of Pennsylvania that's going to soon be reporting a surge of power outages. Let's see if I can get this. I don't know if that's really, that camera's really live or not, guys, honestly. Just have to take its word for it here. Looks pretty calm if that's live. Yep. So this is Ocean Beach, New York. Not a whole lot of action here. Let's see if I can find us another camera that we can check out real quick. Albury Park here in New Jersey. Let's see if we can get a different look. Ah, you know what? Bear with me, folks. Mari, are you, I know you're probably over there surfing the net. Have you seen any reports yet of any kind of damage or any kind of injuries?
Yes, Jake, actually. Twitter probably is the best source for having the pulse on social media. There's places in New Jersey that have wind damage. A lot of those stucco type buildings have it. I've seen pictures of just debris falling off the walls of it, and you can just see like the inside of the wall. So there are some coastal buildings that have definitely taken some damage. They've shut the ferries and all that down. People are chatting about that on Twitter, but so far, I mean, I've been just chatting with people, so I haven't actually been browsing online trying to keep update. I was actually just trying to pull up our tornado information. I was telling people how unusual it is for us to get tornadoes. We got hit with a tornado just about 5 blocks from our house, it was either last month or the month before, I don't remember. Totally unusual. And then we had a watch the other day that we were in, totally unusual, and here we are again with more tornado watches. Sort of interesting.
Yeah, and that tornado that we had about a month ago, I mean, I saw pictures on Facebook, and I know you've told me that it's rare for tornadoes out here, and the pictures that I was seeing on Facebook, I thought they were fake.
No, they were real. I mean, it's just, to me, it's interesting. And we're in a solar minimum, and I'm looking up. The last huge tornado we had in this area, like Capital District region, that was really bad was in Mechanicville. And I'm pretty sure that was during a solar minimum as well. And I'd be interested. I know I've read a couple reports about tornado activity in solar minimum, but I think they were inconclusive. But I would be interested in seeing if there's any atmospheric research reports on correlating low solar activity with higher, atmospheric turbulence and tornadoes. To me, I feel like there's a correlation, but I haven't had the data in front of me to really analyze it. Jake?
So I'm not having much luck here on the cameras. The one I was wanting to look at It's
Yeah,
it's
I
out.
wasn't really having luck with that. I would just close out of that. Swamper 60 in the chat, Jake, met Jack Eddy in 1977 at a solar astronomy class. He lectured at the Boston Museum of Science, and his lecture, as you would expect, was about his theory of Maunder minimum and sunspots affecting the climate. And he said, who knew he would be having a minimum named after him?
Wow.
Cool, huh?
Very cool. And I know Eddie Minimum, that's been kind of the consensus, I guess you should say, that people, they want to call this current grand solar minimum after the late great Jack Eddy. So that's the way I was taught about solar minimum as well. So really, I'm trying to find a camera up and down the coast, but I'm not having much luck, guys. And you can probably imagine why. If there's 500,000 areas that are without power, then I can pretty much imagine why we are not able to see anything there. So we'll just move along here instead of wasting time with this camera. But again, power outages continue to update as we speak. Over 130 in just the last 5 minutes were newly reported. And I just updated it again, folks, and we are now, New Jersey, 650,000 people without power. New York is now also starting to see the effects from the power outages here. Right now, there are 13,000 customers without power in New York, and that's went up 5,000 in just the last 5 minutes. As you can see, New Jersey, once again, in just 5 minutes, another 120,000 people reporting power outages. So we are going to continue to monitor that situation in New Jersey. We'll probably see the same kind of situation happening in New York City. But guys, this storm is now focusing, and I'll bring up the radar again. But this storm is focusing on more inland now. And that's a little bit concerning with all the power outages that we are seeing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this just so we can get a better look. And that's our current image right now of the radar. As you see, this is a fast-moving storm. And if you live in New Jersey, and behind this storm, guys, the sun's coming out. The conditions are drastically improving. Once the storm moves through, I think you'll definitely, but the tornado warning, now I see why they issued it here, or the watch, I should say, in the southern part of Warren County, because that line of storms is not going to hold its strength. Guys, here's another thing we got working for us. Current temperature up here is 69 degrees. So, you know, we don't have a lot of energy right now from the sun, but still, the wind shear is so high right now, and that's why they're concerned about these possible spin-ups, especially from that one leg of the storm that's right off the into the Atlantic Ocean. You could see like a bit of a tail in the Atlantic Ocean. That line of storms is what they are watching for tornadoes. So again, a torcon of 3 and 4 along Connecticut and Massachusetts is a pretty high thing for this time, any time of year for this. Actually, this is not typical tornado alley type situations. So we've got a total of 3 active watches here for Mari and I. Just in this area, we have a flash flood warning, we have a tornado watch, and we also, I wonder if that cancels out. Well, no, it's not going to cancel out. So we've got a wind advisory, flash flood, and a tornado watch, Mari. How much better, how much more weather could you ask for?
I'm not looking forward to this.
So what do you do when you are dealing with inland rain like this? Typical, first, get your lawn furniture inside, off the porch, secure your garbage cans. Folks that live here in Albany and north, you still have a little bit of time to prepare. If you're in the Hudson Valley, Poughkeepsie, that time is come and gone, unfortunately. But here in Albany northward, this is what we need to be doing if you haven't done it already. Secure loose items that are in your yards. If you have a parking area that's in a low-lying area, you need to move your car up to higher ground. Unfortunately, the amount of rain that's being dropped from this particular storm, I don't see any signs of this thing letting up as it rolls through western New York, or I'm sorry, upstate New York, central New York. Western New York, you're spared. You got a couple backline storms there, some very light showers in Buffalo and near Niagara, but nothing too concerning in western New York. So this is a fast-moving storm, guys. Very, very fast-moving storm. And honestly, Mari, the high wind warning, in my opinion, is we're probably gonna start seeing winds pick up here in the next half hour or so before 2 o'clock. And that's when this high wind warning is supposed to start.
Is it still gusts up to 50 miles an hour?
Yes. I'll go ahead and read off local warnings that are up here in the Northeast, upstate New York. If you live in upstate New York or central New York, then you've tuned into the right channel. Let's go ahead and check out. Hold on.
Do you have audio on?
Yes. Audio could be going in and out. It could be an internet thing. I know some of these web pages I'm using right now are kind of slow acting. So still, I'm just really kind of surprised at how fast the storm is moving, folks. I mean, before we know it, this event will be over with. That's a good thing, though. Like I said, this is dropping a lot of rain. Wind advisory remains in effect from 2 p.m. till 1 a.m. tonight here. And these are the counties it's going to affect in upstate New York: Eastern Catskills, Scaleri Valley, Capital District, Saratoga, Glens Falls area, Mid-Hudson Valley, Taconics of the Eastern New York and Southern Vermont. Impacts: gusty winds could blow around unsecured objects, tree limbs could be blown down, isolated power outages may result as well. They're not really fixating at 25 to 35 miles an hour with gusts expected around 50. That's still packing a punch. Are we dealing with Hurricane Sandy damage? I don't know yet. I think the amount of rain that this storm is bringing is not going to help matters. I'll tell you that. I don't think that's going to help matters at all. So power outages starting to slow down a little bit for New Jersey. That's good news. Every time I was updating that, we were seeing about 130,000 being added. All right, guys, stand by just for a minute. I'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, we're back live here again covering Tropical Storm Isaias. It is now traveling 35 miles per hour, going north-northeast right now. I'll give you the current stats on the storm. Let's go ahead and take a look. Right now, maximum winds are 70 miles per hour. Tropical storm moving at 35 miles an hour north-northeast. As I said, pressure is 993 millibars. And that was as of our last update at 12 p.m. We should have another update at 2 p.m. So if anything, I might leave the chat up. I might just go off the air and come back at 2 and do another update on where we are currently. So guys, stick around to the Grand Solar Minimum channel for updates on this tropical storm that is moving through the northeast and dropping huge amounts of rain, bringing lots of wind, lots of flooding, and unfortunately wind damage leading to power outages that are very widespread now across the northeast. Again, almost 700,000 people, 700,000 people, not 700 million, are without power just in the state of New Jersey alone. That continues to be the story here, as we will keep you guys updated. Stay tuned to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. I think we might be back at 2 to give you guys another update on the store and how far it is projected. So we'll be back at 2 p.m. Eastern for another live Grand Solar Minimum update.